Good morning, everyone. Today, I will discuss how globalization has influenced Russia's political economy and the challenges an Australian firm might face when establishing a presence in Russia. We will explore Russia's unique economical structure, often described as limited access order, and how this framework has evolved with globalization. The purpose of this analysis is to explore how globalization has influenced Russia's political economy and assess the challenges Australian firms may encounter when entering the Russian market. Russia operates under a limited access order where political and economical power concentrated in the elite, with the state controlling the key sectors, especially natural resources. Globalization has strengthened Russia's reliance on resource export while maintaining tight state control over critical industries. Globalization has deepened Russia's integration into the global economy, particularly through its energy and natural resources sectors. These sectors, including oil, gas, and minerals, are globally competitive and generate significant revenues. The state then redistributes these revenues to support less competitive domestic sectors, such as manufacturing and defense, which are not successful in global markets. While Russia is an open economy in statistical terms, the state remains strong control over how it interacts with the global economy. Due to the integration into the global markets, has reinforced Russia's reliance on natural resources as the primary driver of its economy. The energy sector's profitability allows the states to fund other less competitive sectors, thus maintaining political and social stability. However, this dependence on natural resource exports has also made an economy vulnerable to fluctuations in global commodity prices. State-owned or state-influenced enterprises dominate trades and capital flows, allowing governments to manage its exposure to global economic dynamics selectively. This state control has allowed Russia to use globalization to its advantage, leveraging global demands for its natural resources while maintaining tight control over key industries and limiting foreign competition in strategic areas. Now I'm gonna discuss about the impact of globalization to Russia's systems, which is economical system, political system, and financial system. The Russian state has used globalization to maintain its influence both domestically and internationally by controlling key sectors that are heavily involved in global trade, such as energy and defense. The state can align economic activities with broader political objectives. This central allows control the state to navigate global economic opportunities while minimizing risk. Russia's financial system remains heavily influenced by the state. With significant barriers to entry for foreign entities, globalization has increased foreign direct investment and integration into global financial markets. But state-controlled banks dominate the sectors. This limits the development of competitive private sectors and reinforce the state control over economic activities. So what are the challenges for Australian firms in Russian legal system? For Australian firms considering entering the Russian market, several legal challenges need to be addressed. Firstly, legal and regulatory uncertainty. The Russian legal system is characterized by inconsistency and unpredictability. Property rights and contracts are not always enforced uniformly, and legal outcomes can often be influenced by political consideration. This creates significant risk for foreign businesses that rely on rules of law for their operation. Secondly is the bureaucratic hurdles and corruption. The prevalence of bureaucracy and corruption in Russia can complicate business operation. Firms often need to navigate complex regulatory environment, which can involve dealing with multiple government agencies and addressing to various sometimes contradictory regulation. Corruption further complicates this as businesses may face demands for unofficial payments or need strong local partnership to navigate these challenges effectively. Thirdly is the state influence and market access. The dominance of state-owned or state-influenced enterprises in key sectors can make it difficult for foreign firms to compete on equal footing. The state's ability to suppress competition and manage market access to maintain political control means that Australian firms might find it challenging to establish a sustainable presence in the market without significant local support or partnership. For Australian firms, this presents both opportunities and challenges. The complex legal environment, state dominance, and regulatory uncertainties require careful consideration and strategic planning. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for any firms considering entering the Russian market to ensure successful and sustainable operation. In conclusion, globalization has significantly influenced Russia's political economy by integrating it into the global market while reinforcing state controls for key sectors.
Thanks, Felix. In this section of the presentation, we will analyse Russia's economic and human development using relevant concepts and measures. We will then determine which measure is of greatest importance for an Australian firm considering establishing a presence in Russia. Economic Development Analysis. Gross Domestic Product (GDP). GDP growth. Russia's GDP growth has been influenced by fluctuations in global oil prices and geopolitical tensions. Recent years have seen modest growth after a period of stagnation. For instance, the World Bank's data shows Russia's GDP growth rate was around 1.2% in 2023, reflecting a slow recovery. GDP per capita. Russia's GDP per capita provides insight into the average economic output per person in 2023. The GDP per capita was approximately USD 10,000, indicating a middle income status. This is lower compared to developed nations but higher than many emerging economies. Sectorial contributions. Natural resources. Russia's economy is heavily dependent on oil and gas exports, which constitute a significant portion of its GDP. The energy sector's performance significantly impacts overall economic health. Industrial diversification. Efforts to diversify the economy have been ongoing, but sectors like manufacturing and technology are less developed compared to energy. This reliance on natural resources makes the economy vulnerable to global commodity price changes. Foreign direct investment. Investment climate. Russia's FDI inflows have been affected by international sanctions and economic uncertainties. However, sectors like energy and natural resources remain attractive for investors. According to UNCTAD, FDI inflows to Russia were around USD 10 billion in 2023, down from previous years due to sanctions and political risks. Human Development Analysis. Human Development Index, HDI. Overall HDI. Russia's HDI, which combines indicators of life expectancy, education, and income, stands at approximately 0.82, classifying it as a high human development country. This reflects substantial progress in health, education, and economic standards. Components. Life expectancy. As of 2023, life expectancy in Russia is around 71 years, showing improvements but still lagging behind many Western countries. Education. Russia boasts high literacy rates and substantial educational attainment. The country has a strong emphasis on higher education with a large number of universities and research institutions. Income. Income levels are moderate with significant regional disparities. Urban areas like Moscow and St. Petersburg have higher income levels compared to rural regions. Health and education. Healthcare. Russia has a comprehensive healthcare system, but access and quality can vary. Urban areas generally have better healthcare facilities compared to rural regions. Education. High literacy rates and a robust educational system contribute positively to human development. However, there are challenges related to educational quality and regional disparities. Importance of economic versus human development for Australian firms. Economic development. Relevance. Economic indicators such as GDP growth, sectorial contributions, and FDI climate are crucial for firms considering market entry. A stable and growing economy provides a better environment for investment and business operations. Impact. For Australian firms, understanding Russia's economic health and sectorial strengths can guide strategic decisions on market entry and investment. Human development. Relevance. Human development indicates impact the quality of the workforce and consumer market. High education levels and a decent standard of living contribute to a favorable business environment. Impact. While important, human development may be secondary to immediate economic factors for firms entering the market. However, long-term considerations include the quality of the workforce and potential market growth. Justification for which measure is more important. Economic development. For an Australian firm considering establishing a presence in Russia, economic development measures like GDP growth, sectorial performance, and investment climate are more critical. These indicators directly affect market potential, profitability, and risk assessment. Human development. While human development measures are valuable for understanding workforce quality and consumer potential, they may not be as critical for initial market entry decisions. So, While both economic and human development indicators provide valuable insights, economic development measures such as GDP growth and sectorial contributions are of greatest importance for Australian firms considering entering the Russian market. These factors offer a more immediate assessment of market potential and investment risks. Now I'll pass over to Minho.
Thank you, Ella. Hi, I'm Mason, and I'll be covering the cultural distance between Australia and Russia by using two frameworks, Hofstede's cultural dimensions and Ronan and Schenker's cultural clusters. I'll then determine if our culture and values are coming closer together with globalization as a driving factor or if they're becoming more diverse due to different political environments and strong histories. The first framework is Hofstede's cultural dimensions. This will help evaluate what type of culture both Australia and Russia have. There are 6 cultural dimensions this framework covers: power distance, uncertainty avoidance, individualism and collectivism, masculinity and femininity, long and short-term orientation, and indulgence and restraint. Power distance is when less powerful members of society expect that power is distributed equally. Australia has a power distance of 38, which is considered low to average, whilst Russia has a score of 93, one of the highest scores globally. This shows a large cultural gap in power expectations. Australia have subsidies and financial support for businesses and workers to help those who don't have power, which can level the power distance between the top and the bottom. Russia has a strong religious population and see those with wealth and assets as more powerful. Therefore, Russia considers those with money to be more powerful and impactful as those worse off. The next factor of Hofstede's cultural dimensions framework is collectivism versus individualism. Australia scores a 90, which demonstrates that Australia is very individualized and that the culture expectation is to advance yourself and your assets, whilst Russia scored a 39, which shows that they have some individualism, but overall work towards their team goals and put the masses ahead of the individual goals. This is similar in the business industry. Russia focuses more on furthering the company, whilst Australians are more concerned about their own position in the business. Masculinity and femininity is the next factor in the framework. A more masculine nation prefers achievements, heroism, assertiveness, and material reward, whilst a feminine nation prefers caring for the weak, modesty, quality of life, and preference of cooperation. Australia scored 61, making the nation more masculine, whilst Russia scored 36, making it more feminine. This can be extracted as Russia have a strong hierarchical culture, and therefore the elderly are very important and considered wise and a guide to the younger citizens. In Australia, the citizens are very accepting of everyone, but would rather further themselves to build a better life for their family at the expense of strangers. Uncertainty avoidance is how uncomfortable society feels with uncertainty and ambiguity. Russia scores quite highly with a 95, which shows that culture is very measured and planned as they want to be in control, whilst Australia scored 51, which shows indifference towards a planned out lifestyle or a short-term ideology lifestyle. This can be explained by other factors in the framework, such as unwillingness to change from lifelong stores. Russia as a nation is well known for not allowing mockery on the global stage towards that nation. It is a very proud nation, which likely transfers to its citizens. Therefore, the people may not enjoy new policies or trends as they can be seen as a threat to the nation. Long-term orientation is the fifth factor and means preference to maintain time-long traditions and view societal change as suspicious, while short-term orientation embraces societal change and doesn't consistently maintain traditions. Australia has a score of 21, which can demonstrate a large presence of multiculturalism, but this also proves traditions aren't sacred. Russia has a score of 81, which shows dedication to the cultural history of their nation, such as dress standards and holidays. This can be explained by strong values such as loyalty and that Russians are reluctant to change. This will impact Australia's business trying to venture into the Russian region as the Russians are loyal to the already established businesses and are not willing to try new businesses. The final factor is indulgence/restraint, represents how people enjoy life, such as indulgence referring to enjoying life and the natural drive to try new things, while restraint is restricting oneself to strict social norms. Australia scored 71, showing opportunity and drive to try new things and live a fulfilled life, whilst Russia scored a 20, reaffirming the idea that new culture is frowned upon and that staying within the social norms is what is desired. Similar to those other factors, political systems can affect the score. This includes that Russia is more collective as a nation and want to focus on team goals, which usually holds people back from trying new things, but brings those less fortunate forward. The second framework, called Ronan and Schenker's Culture Cluster, regionalizes areas that have similar culture. The most known cluster would be the Nordic cluster that share similar cultures, values, and regions. Australia is a part of the Anglo cluster, which contains other Western nations such as the US, Canada, South Africa, New Zealand, and UK. These nations hold similar values and political ideology. Therefore, it is easy for businesses to transfer operations from one country to another within the same culture group, according to their framework. Russia, although not explicitly listed in all lists, falls in the Eastern European cluster. This cluster also contains Ukraine, Belarus, Romania, and Czechia. Therefore, following the same understanding as the Anglo cluster, Russian-based businesses can move freely between these countries in the same cluster without a large barrier of entry. Neither Russia or Australia have left their cultural clusters in their recent histories, and therefore there is no established culture left in Russia. Overall, using these two frameworks, we can see that the Russia and Australian cultures are diverging with instances of converging. This will impact the success of any Australian business trying to establish a branch in Russia. Whilst Australia has sanctions on Russia, it is near impossible for an Australian business to start operations in Russia, as Russia has declared Australia as an unfriendly country. Therefore, all resemblance of Australian culture in Russia has left, as Australian tourists were urged to leave and businesses could no longer operate within Russia's borders. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone. For question 5, I'll discuss the key trade policy instruments that Russia currently uses to manage its economy and international trade relations. There are some trade policy instruments that Russia's government currently employs. The first one is tariffs and import duties. Russia employs tariffs on imported goods to shield its domestic industries from foreign competition. For example, higher tariffs on imported agricultural products make foreign goods more expensive, helping local farmers compete more effectively. Similarly, by raising import duties on foreign automobiles, Russia encourages consumers to buy Russian-made cars, supporting the domestic automobile industry. On the second one is export restriction. Russia often imposes taxes or bans on the export of certain goods, particularly natural resources, to control prices and maintain supply within a country. The example is the tax on crude oil exports, which helps stabilize domestic energy costs. The third one is import substitution policy. This policy promotes the production of goods domestically rather than relying on imports, aiming to strengthen the local economy. For instance, the government offers incentives to encourage local manufacturing of machinery and electronics, reducing the need for imports and boosting the domestic industry. The last instrument is sanction and counter-sanction. In response to sanctions from Western countries, Russia has imposed its own counter-sanction, impacting international trade relations. A notable example is the ban on food imports from the EU and the USA as a relation against sanctions imposed by these countries. These policies are designed to protect and promote Russia's economic interests, both domestically and internationally. Now, let's look at the theoretical foundation supporting Russia's trade policy. There are 4 theories that support Russia's trade policies. The first theoretical foundation is new trade theory. This theory suggests that producing goods on a large scale can reduce costs and benefit domestic industries, enhancing international competitiveness. Russia's tries to build its own electronics industry instead of relying on imports is an example. By increasing domestic production, Russia aims to lower costs and make its products more competitive globally. The second theory is protectionism. Protectionism argues for using tariffs and imposed taxes to protect local industries from foreign competition, supporting domestic economic growth. An example is Russia's high tariffs on imported cars to encourage buying locally made vehicles, supporting the growth of its own car industry. The third one is strategic trade policy. This theory suggests that the government should actively support specific industries to enhance their competitiveness on a global scale. Russia provides financial support to high-tech industries like electronics and aerospace to help them to grow and compete internationally. This reduces reliance on foreign products and encourages local production.
The last theory is realism in international relations. Realism emphasizes the importance of national independence and security, using trade policies to achieve political and strategic objectives. For example, Russia's use of counter-sanctions, such as banning certain imports, helps protect its national interests and respond to Western sanctions, asserting its power in international relations. By applying these theories, Russia aims to protect its economy, promote growth, and maintain strategic independence in a complex global environment. In conclusion, there is pros and cons for Russia's trade policy. Russia's approach to trade policy reflects its desire to be self-sufficient and less reliant on foreign goods, while this can boost local industries. It also risks straining international trade relationships. Russia's trade policy instruments, grounded in strategic theory, aim to project its economic interests while advancing long-term objectives in international trade and diplomacy. Thank you for listening to Question 5.